Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a very special video because I do one of these a year and it's normally an office tour, but I'm in a temporary living space right now. I'm going to be moving soon, so this is just going to be a comic book shelf tour for 2022, but you will see some of my art prints and you will see some of my CGC graded comic books as well. You just won't be seeing what you did in past videos like my Iron Studio statues or just any sort of deeper room decor, but we're still going to take a look and I'll give you my thoughts on each one of these books, something I'm very proud of on my channel, and this is no disrespect to anyone who doesn't do this, but every single book that I buy, I read. So right now 99% of these I've read, and the other 1% is because I've just accumulated them. So without further ado, let's take a look at all these books. Alright guys, so I'm just going to briefly right now give you a rundown quickly of everything that we're going to be looking at today. So it's this shelf with those art prints, and there's some stuff laid on top as well. Not normally displayed like that, but I thought I'd show it off for you. There's these art prints here, and then there's also some stuff over here and another art print there. So I think with that said, let's start with the bread and butter. Let's start with the omnibuses on this shelf, and then we'll work our way up to the rest of what's on this shelf. So, as you can probably tell, I have sort of cultivated a random way of putting these books on the shelf. I used to do it alphabetically, but I get so many omnibuses in, like once a week, that it became annoying to try to push everything down and reorganize everything every time. So what I've been doing is just putting basically any other book I get new, like on that shelf over there, except for mutant-related books. So as you can kind of tell, I've got it laid out. So this entire top row is everything X-Men and mutants, and then there's some, overlap because it didn't all fit because I have so many X-Men and mutant omnibuses. But with that said, let's take a closer look. So the very first omnibus we have here is X-Men Grand Design, which I kind of put first just because it is one man's vision of making everything make sense within a certain continuity period. So I thought that was fun, and since it deals with very, very early X-Men stuff, I'll throw it in there at the very beginning. Then we have the true first appearances of our X-Men and many of the mutants that we know and love now, and that is in the two original from the 60s X-Men omnibuses here, volume 1 and 2. Kind of dull reads, to be honest, but if you're interested in just, sort of the history behind this all, then they're fun for that, and the artwork is fun to flip through as well. Then we've got X-Men Classic, which is kind of this really interesting thing they did where, I guess they wanted to flesh out some character work in the X-Men books a little further, which is funny because I think they're very fleshed out already, and we have a good sense of all the characters, but in this, they sort of reprinted the original X-Men stories. Sorry, not the original from these, but like the original Uncanny X-Men stories by Claremont, and just added a few pages here and there, just added some nice character moments, and it's really fun to flip through and read those too, and there's some good stuff in there. Then I have, of course, Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1. This is the gold standard. This is the game changer. This is everything. If you're an X-Men fan and you haven't read this, what are you doing? You have to go read it. Come on. Next up, we have the Phoenix Omnibus Volume 1, which is a weird omnibus, and there's a lot of double dipping with Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 2, but as you can kind of tell, I don't have that omnibus. It's very hard to come by, and it's going to get reprinted again probably, but it won't have the big font like I like it, so I might get a custom dust jacket at that point. But anyway, so I'm kind of using the Phoenix Omnibus and the X-Men Dark Phoenix Saga Omnibus, which are both, I think, frankly, kind of weird omnibuses to have been made, but they serve my purpose of getting that story. So, trying to fill out that Claremont gap as best as I can without actually having Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 2, and these two do the trick. Next up, we have Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 3 and 4, and just, what else is there to say about these omnibuses, guys? The Uncanny X-Men run that Claremont did is just phenomenal. It's insane, it's beautiful, it's poignant, there's wonderful, wonderful moments, there's action-packed moments, it's a rom-com, it's a drama, it's literally everything, it's a horror sometimes, it's so fantastic. If you haven't read it, if you're not an X-Men fan, do yourself a favor and at least give, some of Uncanny X-Men a try. You don't have to, keep reading it if you don't like it, but I think for the most part, a lot of people will fall hard for it. Then we've got Mutant Massacre, which might be like my favorite omnibus. I'm not sure. That fluctuates and oscillates and whatnot, but I really, really love Mutant Massacre, and it's got a lot of those beautiful moments I mentioned in it, and especially has some really, really fantastic X-Men moments that stood out for me, and I know they stood out for a lot of other people too, because I went to a convention a few months ago, and I was even talking to an older gentleman about Mutant Massacre, and we both sort of pinpointed this one issue where all the mutants are like standing up for what's right, and we were like, yeah, that was so beautiful, wasn't it? Yes, it was. So yeah, common ground over the beautiful moments in the X-Men books. That's always nice. Then we have Fall of the Mutants, which is an interesting omnibus because it's like an X-Men event in a way, but it's not like it's affecting all of the mutant titles. Like each mutant title, New Mutants, X-Men, then X-Factor, each have their fall, air quotes, in their own way. And it's really fun. I enjoyed them all. Then we have the X-Men Inferno prologue. Good stuff. I mean, that leads into X-Men Inferno, which is one of my favorite X-Men events. It's so chaotic, it's so messy, but it's really, really fun, really enjoyable. Love the Exterminators in it, love Madeline Pryor in it. Just a lot of great prose in there too. Next, we have, we're getting towards the end of Claremont's run here. We have the X-Men by Claremont and Jim Lee. I've got Omnibuses Volume 1 and Volume 2. Really good stuff in there, too. Some people say Volume 1's slow, but I actually prefer that one, and it's got one of my favorite issues ever. That's a very casual issue. It's the first appearance of Jubilee. I forget the actual number. It might be 244, but it's the Ladies' Night issue that I just think is so fun. And then they do a follow-up that is like Man's Night, or it's not Man's Night, it's something with the boys, the boys have their own special issue too, and it's a lot of fun. Then we have X-Men The Age of Apocalypse omnibus along with its companion. I'm not the biggest fan of this event, to be honest with you. I do like Legion Quest. I think that's the best part of it, which kind of initiates the whole event. And then it's always fun to see alternate takes on X-Men characters and whatnot, but just in general, I know it's like a little too 90s for me, like aggressively 90s. I feel a similar way to X-Men Onslaught, and that has larger implications, I think, for the main Marvel universe, which you'll discover when you read it, or you might already know from having the effects felt in other titles that you've enjoyed. Then we have an omnibus that's very near and dear to my heart, the New X-Men by Grant Morrison. Now, they are a phenomenal writer. I have rarely, really enjoyed reading as much Grant Morrison as I can get my hands on. And I kind of took, this was at the start of or not the start, it was kind of like the pandemic had just taken shape, really. And distribution problems were attacking all these beautiful omnibuses. They couldn't get them printed. There was paper issues, whatever. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'll try an X-Men book for once. I don't pick up X-Men books. I've never really read any X-Men books. I'll try one. And
guys, that's what started the whole X-Men addiction. I mean, that is like my favorite comic team now, as you can clearly tell. Like they've got a special place in my heart. Then we have, this is the next one I read, Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon, which is a really good story as well. There's a motion comic too for anyone who wants to check that out. It's not necessarily done in a super professional way, but I think it can, satisfy those who maybe want to check X-Men out without fully committing, to like an actual reading. Anyway, then we have Wolverine and the X-Men by Jason Aaron, which I really wanted to like, but I did not like. It just didn't do it for me for some reason. All the characterizations felt very off. I know Jason Aaron's written good stuff elsewhere, but I haven't really read it, so yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'd read another Jason Aaron X-Men book. Then we've got our little Krakoa area right here, because we have House of X, Powers of X, which is the radical paradigm shift for the X-Men that brought us into the current era as we know it. Phenomenal stuff. Made me a very emotional reading, actually. It's really good. You should check it out. It's got a lot to do with, it's the foundation of their nation state, but it's also a lot about, cultivating a mutant culture which I think is the part that was beautiful to me. Then we have, sort of continuing along that line, Hickman's X-Men Omnibus. Great stuff as well, just sort of exploring more stuff within the Krakoa era. We've got X of Swords, which a lot of people really, really dislike. I think it's average, it was kind of a bait and switch since we thought there was going to be, this awesome battle with the 10 swords or whatnot, and then it turned out to be something else. But we do get a Racco from that, which is super, super fun and has been part of what's making some of the X-Men books really, really exciting right now. So thank you for a Racco. Although we did lose Apocalypse because of it, I guess. So, but I think he's coming back soon. Anyway, I can't do videos like this because I get so off topic and I start going on tangents. I'm really reining myself in here, guys. Then we have X-Men, the Hellfire Gala, which I loved this event so much. It's very casual. It's very just, we're having a good time. But there's also, it ends with like something that really, really plays a big role in changing the future of the rest of the line. But I also just love it because it made me care about all the fashion design aspects of like the gala and everything, which was really fun. And just like when all that was coming out and we were seeing looks as they got posted, it felt fun to be an X-Men fan. And that at the end of the day is what it's all about, just having a good time. Then we have the Inferno event, which I do like. I think I like it more in retrospect. I was a little initially disappointed with the event, which even then I didn't think it was bad. It was more so just like, oh, I thought it would have a more radical shift in the storyline moving forward. We do get, kind of a character go evil here that has played a role in the future, but other than that, not too much shifts because of it, although that's debatable, I guess. Anyway, moving on. X-Lives of Wolverine and X-Deaths of Wolverine. Honestly, kind of forgettable. No disrespect to the creative team that worked on it, but I'm trying to rack my mind for opinions about it, and all that I can think of is just a shrug, I don't remember anything standing out and being fantastic, and I don't remember anything being so terrible, Anyway, moving on to something phenomenal, and one of the best omnibuses I have as well. The New Mutants Omnibus, Volume 1 and Volume 2 here. Also kind of an X-Men book that I picked up just to give it a try because I didn't know anything about this group of New Mutants. At this point, I was reading X-Men though, so I was like, whatever, it's mutants. I'm sure it'll be good. And you know what? I was right. But these are some of my favorite characters now in comic books too. And if you're a fan of the channel, I've been doing analysis videos that are the ideological evolution of each one of these characters as they go through the... Sorry, my video camera just shut off there for a second. But as I was saying, if you want to check it out, I do a video series called The Ideological Evolution of whichever character through Chris Claremont's run on the New Mutants, which is 54 issues. So I kind of just track where they started ideologically and how they grew throughout the run because I think it's very masterfully done. Next up, another sleeper hit that when I got this and I read this, I was like, oh my god, I really struck gold here just throwing a dart at a board. And that's Excalibur. Excalibur by Chris Claremont and Alan Davis. It's so fantastic. A really, really special book. Just zany, wild, crazy, multiversal, poignant, promiscuous in ways. Just really, really fun, and you should definitely check that one out. I checked it out because I saw Kitty and Nightcrawler were in it, and I was like, I love them. And then I was introduced to Rachel Summers for the first time, and then Captain Britain, and Megan, who is fantastic. I love Megan. I also love Rachel Summers a lot too. Two of my standouts from that run, alongside two great X-Men, Kitty and Nightcrawler. Come on. And then he's there. And then there's the Volume 2 with Rachel Summers on the side there as she's possessed by the Phoenix. Very, very good. We've also got the two Wolverine omnibuses here, which are kind of just a collection of a bunch of different Wolverine stories, including his series that ran for a little bit. His first series, that is. And then, you know what? I was saying I hadn't read any other Jason Aaron X-Men stuff, but I guess I have. But I kind of also just forgot about this one too. It was very, very forgettable for me. I read this very early on though, so I wasn't too privy on X-Men knowledge, so maybe I missed a lot, especially since Wolverine is such an extensive lore that everyone just keeps adding to. Maybe I'll check it out again sometime in the future. Probably not soon, though, because I have a lot more interesting things to read, I think, than a Wolverine Goes to Hell book. Then we have the all-new Wolverine, which is Laura Kinney, and I thought that was really, really fun. We get the introduction of Honey Badger, aka Gabby, in there too, or whatever she goes by now. She might have changed her name, I think. But it's just a fun, lighthearted, sort of more humorous take on Wolverine, and that's Laura Kinney's Wolverine again. But there's also some really powerful moments in there that are character defining for her. So Tom Taylor does a really excellent job in this book of sort of capturing two types of tones. So I'd check that one out if I were you, especially if you're a fan of Laura Kinney. Then we have X-Factor by Peter David, another really, really fun book. I love, just the dynamic between Polaris, Rain Sinclair, and Havoc, where it's almost a love triangle in a way. I don't know if you could explicitly call it that, but it makes for an interesting read. Then there's Multiple Man in there, who's also, a highlight character, a standout character who I haven't seen featured in many other places. And then Strong Guy, too. Let's not forget about Strong Guy. I want to give everyone some love. Okay, so here is an omnibus that I have not read yet, because my comic book shop basically they bought some dude's entire omnibus collection, and they've been selling it off for like half price on all the books. And this one's out of print, I think, so I grabbed that one immediately. Haven't had the chance to read it yet because I'm reading some new books that have been released right now, but I will get to that. So no thoughts on it, but except that I'm excited to read it. Then we have Spider-Man: The Clone Saga, Omnibus Volume 1. Not too big a fan of clone stuff, which is funny considering the fact that I'm an X-Men fan, and like how many clones are running around in the X-Men books? Not counting if you consider that the Krakoan experiment might just be clone breeding, basically. Anyway, that's to say, it was okay, average. I didn't feel the need to get the Volume 2. Then we have what is maybe possibly the worst Spider-Man book, and maybe omnibus in general, that I own, and that is by John Byrne. I just felt like it did nothing. It adds nothing. It's not even fun to flip through, really. So, but look, Claremont's in there. Anyway, moving on to The Amazing Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane. That's some good classic stuff. That's some Venom action, symbiote stuff. Check that one out. I think that's a really good Spider-Man read for anybody who's interested in the character. Alongside with Spider-Man by Roger Stern, which is a bunch of Hobgoblin stuff that's also really, really fun. That's a great read too. Many, many people recommend that, and I will express that sentiment as well. Read this one. You don't want to miss it. It's really good. Then we have The Untold Tales of Spider-Man by Kurt Busiek. This one's interesting. It's kind of basically, I think the concept was to do Spider-Man tales that are in between the original, like, Stan Lee and Ditko Spider-Man tales. I like Kurt Busiek a lot. I like the way he writes, but I don't know if this was necessarily a project that needed to be done. I guess none of these needed to be done, but even to fulfill a certain, like, level of entertainment, I feel like Busiek's talents would be best used somewhere else. Then we have a run that I really like. It's The Amazing Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski, and I'm laughing because I said I really like it, but there's like a couple, I think everyone knows there's a couple things in both these books that are like, they're just not what we want to see out of Spider-Man books. But what I do like is like the Spider Totem stuff, which is pretty unique and a pretty drastic kind of lore thing they added in there. But it worked for me. It really did work for me. I didn't think it would. And I also just love Spider-Man as a teacher. Like, that is such a good role for him, and they should bring him back to that. I know there's a lot of discourse about his current, state in the comics, but we won't touch on that. Moving on, we have The Superior Foes of Spider-Man by Nick Spencer. I always thought it was funny. This got an omnibus before The Superior Spider-Man did, but that's coming out now, so that will be remedied soon in the future. But as you can tell, it's very thin. It's a very quick read. It's just lighthearted and fun. It's like a heist story with like some goofballs. Anyway, another omnibus that's very near and dear to my heart is the Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1. As you can see, it is well-loved, pretty beat up, and that's because it's my very first omnibus I ever had. I ordered it off Amazon way, way back when I was like 14 or 13 or something like that. And I would bring this bad boy to school in my backpack and I would read it like in class. It was insane. Like, imagine doing that to an omnibus. Oh, man. Anyway, moving on. Sad to say, Ultimate Spider-Man does not last long, as you can tell, because Death of Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus is here. And that's a good one too. Also kind of small, not as small as Superior Foes, but it's basically this, what it advertises is what you get. Then we have these should be probably flipped because I don't know what my intention here was. I could see it both ways. Anyway, this is Miles Morales' Spider-Man when he is in the 616 universe. Then this is him in the Ultimate universe. So kind of two different things. Maybe I should flip it, but maybe I just didn't know where to put that normal 616 universe Miles book. Anyway, let's get out of the Ultimate and 616 universe and go to whatever universe Spider-Gwen is from, because that's the next omnibus here. I don't think I really enjoyed this that much. It's always fun to see alternate takes on characters, like I mentioned before, but nothing really stood out to me for this one. It does have some good artwork. That's nice. Anyway, moving on. We've got the Daredevil by Stan Lee omnibus, which is not really good, and I really had trouble reading it. Like my eyelids kept feeling very, very heavy as I was going through this one. It's just weird. It's like not the Daredevil that we know and love either. But it might be worth it for like historical purposes. Moving on, we have Daredevil by Frank Miller. I only have the companion. I have read the rest of it. This is phenomenal stuff. It's, of course, very, very iconic. People love Frank Miller's Daredevil, and for good reason. You should definitely check that out. Then we've got the Bendis and Brubaker omnibuses, which are also really, really good and sort of just, direct continuations of one storyline. Then we get Daredevil Shadowland, which is a little bit more controversial. It's not it's not good, but it's not bad. It's leaning towards bad at times. But the main story, the main Daredevil Shadowland story, there's something there. And I think a lot of people are averse to it just because it's way more mystical than most Daredevil stories tend to be. But there's also aversion to it because it's not as tightly written and not as well written and not as characterized as nicely as some other Daredevil books. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on Daredevil Shadowland? I know it's not the best, especially when there's so many phenomenal Daredevil runs, but it's okay. Anyway, then we get a kind of radical shift for Daredevil too. And we go away from these kind of crime noir type stories, the gritty environment of New York City, and we go to the West Coast, baby. Daredevil moves to San Francisco. And that's what Mark Waid's run is sort of about, and him like discovering himself again in a way. It's good. It's really fun. I really like this Daredevil run. And then we have another run that I really like too. I mean, Daredevil runs just do not quit, do they? And that is the Charles Soule Daredevil run, which is very, very like kind of back to basics, but in one of the best ways possible. It's really, really fun and introduces some really cool side characters as well. Then we have the Sensational She-Hulk by John Byrne. I must admit, this is one of my favorite omnibuses. I think John Byrne is less than a great guy, but this is a good book. I enjoy it, despite the annoying author. Anyway, moving on, we have She-Hulk by Dan Slott, which is another pretty good run, kind of just surface level, but kind of cameo of the week style, sort of similar to the She-Hulk series, which I thought was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed. But yeah, it's a good one. I'd check it out if you're interested in the She-Hulk, and especially her doing, superhero law stuff. Then we have my Fantastic Four books. You'll notice that I'm missing, this is the 60s Fantastic Four, of course. You can tell by the tiny spines. You'll notice that I'm missing Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 1. That's because for like a year I thought I had it, so I didn't order it when it got reprinted, and then I guess I didn't have it, and now I don't have it. It might be reprinted again. It might be even available right now. I haven't checked, but at just some point I have to pick that up. But then we have the Fantastic Four by John Byrne, another John Byrne book, but I enjoyed that book. It was one of the first Fantastic Four books that I read. I think it's the Volume 2. I was never able to pick it up, but I think it's getting a reprint here in the future. Not sure if I will pick that one up, though. Then we have the Fantastic Four by Matt Fraction, which is a very different Fantastic Four run. I always tell people, like, don't go into it expecting, your typical Fantastic Four, or, like, to be with the Fantastic Four characters that we know pretty often, and I think you will enjoy it a lot.
Then we have Fantastic Four by Wade and Waringo, I think. I might be butchering that pronunciation. But this is one of my favorite Fantastic Four omnibuses as well. It's so good. They really, really do Doom justice. I really love the Doom stuff, especially when he like has his skin suit that he made that is imbued with like magic. Really, really good. And he's a menace in that book. He's a little menace. Then we have the Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman. I love, love, love Jonathan Hickman as a writer. He's always got such amazing thought he puts into these books, so much plot in there, so many heavy sci-fi concepts that he explores in a wonderful, wonderful way. Highly recommend checking that out. Maybe not the best for new readers. I feel like it could be a little confusing, but if you have a surface level, at least, comic book knowledge, then I think you'll really like those books. Next up, this is where I think Busiek does shine very, very well, and a project that he was meant to be on, and that's his 2 Iron Man omnibuses here. Like I said, I think his prose is just beautiful. The way that he writes the character is really nice, and it's sort of just your typical fun superhero story, but enhanced by Busiek's writing. Then we have the, sort of on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the Tony Stark Iron Man series. I think it's like Iron Man 2020 was what it was originally called, and that's by Dan Slott, and that is like very, very shallowly, oh my god, I can't speak. And that is very, very shallowly done. It's just like, it doesn't do it for me. It touches on all these subjects that like, we're like, oh, we're going to discuss like the rights of artificial intelligence. And then it doesn't really. I mean, nothing substantial. And it's just not great. Not my favorite. Then we have the Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, A Hero is Born omnibus. Really interesting read, just from a historical perspective. I picked up that book just to write an essay on it for college back when I was in university still. Then we have the Captain Britain omnibus, which, you know, if you think Excalibur is where that zaniness started, turns out it started way back here in Captain Britain. So check that out if you want to know a little bit more about him, who's not a character I love, but as a character that I've grown to accept in certain ways. Anyway, moving on, we've got our Captain America books. First, we have Captain America by Dan Jurgens, who, it's funny, I saw him at a convention, and like, I guess I didn't realize he wrote such a such an iconic Superman story, Death of Superman. So I was like, oh, that's the guy that wrote Captain America, that Captain America run where Captain America punches a dinosaur. And like, I think my friend was like, no, man, he's written other stuff. Anyway, there's Captain America by Ed Brubaker. I've got 2 of those. I need to get the rest. Those are very like political spy thriller, and they're fun to read. They're fun like little quick reads, and I want to know how that ends, so I want to keep reading. Then we've got Captain America by Rick Remender, which disappointed me a little bit because I thought it was going to be focused on, you know, Sam as Captain America, but a lot of it just focused on Captain America trapped in like this other dimension, like that was run by Zola, that I thought was really, really boring. Anyway, we've got the West Coast Avengers next, Volume 1 and 2. Phenomenal stuff. Really, really good. You guys should check out West Coast Avengers. I never hear anyone talk about West Coast Avengers, but it's a great team. It's like, we've got Hank Pym, we've got Moon Knight, we've got Tigra, we've got, what's her name, Mockingbird. There's a lot of good characters there. Check it out. Oh, Rhodey's in that, I think. Moving on, we've got the New Avengers Omnibus by Bendis, which was the first Avengers Omnibus I ever read, and if you know the contents of this book, that's really funny, because they get decimated. Anyway, then we've got what is my favorite Avengers run, which is, of course, by Jonathan Hickman, and this is dealing with everything that sort of leads up to Secret Wars. This is the Incursion storyline stuff. This is just phenomenal. This is epic. This is like one of the most heart-thumping runs that I've ever read. Really, really liked it. Then we have the Moon Knight Omnibus, which not too big a fan of personally. It didn't make me want to buy the second one. I thought it was, I mean, it is dated, and I thought it read as dated and didn't get me too interested in the character, but again, good for maybe a historical perspective. A more modern Moon Knight run is this one that I have right here. I like it. It doesn't fall into the trap of being too edgy. I do have to say, though, and this is going to sound really sacrilegious to probably all you Moon Knight fans out there, like, I prefer the MCU's interpretation of the character, frankly. Like, I don't know, something about this is just not quite doing it for me. Maybe I have to read some more, but I like Oscar Isaac's version better.
Then we have the Cosmic Ghost Rider Omnibus Volume 1. Excited that we'll be getting a Volume 2 because this was really good stuff and more Thanos focused than I thought too. We got some good insight into his character there. One shelf down, guys. One shelf down. All right, we'll take a brief break from the omnibuses just to go over the rest of this shelf, and then we'll hop into the next shelf of books, which has more omnibuses and some other books as well. So first of all, we've got my CGC graded comics here. I've got the first appearance of Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde, also Sebastian Shaw, and that is X-Men 129. This is the first CGC graded comic that I ever picked up. Emma Frost is my favorite X-Men character, for those who don't know, so I figured this would be a good one to get. Also, Kitty Pryde, also a great character, so it's a 2-for-1, really. And then, Sebastian Shaw, too. We don't want to disrespect him, even though he's not, the most heroic of characters. Moving on, we've got this signed copy of New Mutants number 16, signed by Mr. Chris Claremont himself. The reason I got this, it says the first appearance of Thunderbird, who's James Proudstar, who later becomes Warpath. It is the first appearance of him, but it's also the first appearance of the rest of the Hellions. I don't know why that they don't put that up here. I wish they would. But, Cat's Eye is like a really underrated, like, D-list, E-list character that I just love. I love her so much. So I was like, I got to get her first appearance, and it was very, very affordable, too. Down here, you'll see I've got the first appearance of She-Hulk, Jen Walters, in the Savage She-Hulk number 1. I really, really like the character of She-Hulk. I've got another She-Hulk omnibus on the other shelf. I've read a bunch of her runs. I just think she's really, really fun. So I figured I'd pick up her first appearance. Then, this was my holy grail comic, and I said, Ryan, you have to buy it. You have to buy it before they start bringing all the mutants into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because the price is just going to go up. Buy it now, because this is going to keep going up. I feel like X-Men are going to be huge, huge, huge in the future, sort of, hitting the same strides as they were back when they were originally super popular. And then, with the Krakoa era, bringing in so many new fans, also, I was like, I gotta get it. I think what happened was, like, they did the Miss Marvel mutant reveal, and I was like, oh, that is it. That is my sign to get it today. And then I got it. So here it is in a 3.0. I think it looks pretty presentable for a 3.0, so happy to have this to my collection. Then over here, we have the first U.S. appearance of Betsy Braddock, and this is when she, officially becomes Psylocke in the New Mutants Annual number 2. All right, moving on to the art prints. For some of these, I don't know the artist because I got them at conventions and I don't have their cards anymore and misplaced them or whatever. But if I do remember the artist, or if I look it up afterwards and I find them, I'll put it on the screen so you know who they are. So I have this beautiful, beautiful Psylocke, or not Psylocke, Cyclops print that I got at a comic convention. There's kind of a glow here. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's mixed media artwork, and it's really, really just elegant, beautiful. I feel like you could put this somewhere outside of like the comic book office or comic book man cave or basement or space or whatever, and it would still fit in. It's classy in that way. Down here, we have a piece that I just bought from Blue Romantics on Twitter. That's their handle. They are an artist, an X-Men fan. They've been on the podcast I do on my channel before called Your Favorite X-Men. They're going to be on it again in the future. And I just really loved their take on Madeline Pryor here, Saint Pryor. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. I love all the imagery involved in it. It's just really, really good. Then we have this awesome, really, really awesome Warlock print that I got at a convention. This is the one I think I will not be able to give you the artist name, unfortunately, and I can't tell by his signature, but he was really, really talented. And I mean, I feel like I often, aside from Sienkiewicz, I don't see Warlock drawn very well very often, but this is it. That rocks. Also picked up a Magic from him too, because he had 2 prints that were from the X-Men, and it was Warlock and Magic, and I was like, I love the New Mutants, so why not? I think his Magic looked really good too. Down here, we have another little 8x10 print, and this is, I'll have to put the name on the screen because I don't remember who it is, but it's awesome. It's just this nice little Krakoa vibing piece. I really, really like it. I like the colors. I like the lighting. Everything's really nice. I think we'll continue with the prints for now because those are going to be really, really easy and quick to show you. Oh no, not feet for free. Anyway. Oh my god. Okay, here is an awesome Thor piece that I got from as a sideshow print. I had a bunch sort of hung up in my old office, and it had all these blue tones, so kind of see what I was going for. But I've got the Thor right there, and then I've got this beautifully romantic Paulo Rivera piece of Spider-Man and Mary Jane. Just love the colors. It's really, really beautiful. Then I have this awesome Doctor Strange, and this is by artist Alex Garant, who's been dubbed the Queen of the Double Eye. Yes, that's not a reflection, that's just the way that it looks. That's how she painted it. This is her signature style. She's a Canada-based artist who all her pieces look like this. She even did promo work for Multiverse of Madness, similar to this, although I think this is better. Then we have this really colorful and intergalactic Silver Surfer and Galactus, Heralds of Galactus piece, which is so cool. Moving on, we've got Night of the Sentinels, this cool X-Men piece that I just had to get. I thought it was really awesome, the stylization of it. All right, guys, let's knock out this shelf now. First off, let's start up top. These also, this Spider-Man and this Wolverine, I got at a con, and unfortunately, there's no way I'm going to be able to find the artist's name, but I really like them. I think they look great. I've also got them displayed alongside my little shrine here to Peach Momoko, who's one of my favorite comic book cover artists, probably next to Mark Brooks. They're probably tied for the #1 spot. I just love everything Peach Momoko does. This isn't all of my Peach Momoko covers, but I just threw a few of them up here just to display and make it look cool. So now let's actually move on to the shelf. All right, so let's start with the Guardians of the Galaxy. First off, I have the Abnett and Lanning run, which is, of course, phenomenal. Deals a lot with life and death and the balance of the two, and universes where, you know, it may be unbalanced. They even go to one, I think it's called the Cancerverse. It's really cool. That's a great book, leads into and ties into War of Kings stuff. Next, we have a book that probably is never getting a volume 2, but it's The Guardians of the Galaxy by Brian Michael Bendis. I like this one. I think it's pretty casual and fun, and there's not too much substance behind it, but it's like just a good comic booky read. A lot of people aren't the biggest fan of this one, but I think I'm just Brian Michael biased when it comes to Bendis. Moving on, there is Guardians of the Galaxy by Dugan. This is okay. This is also just super surface level. It's like they do a little heist, they fight the Collector. As you can tell, it's very thin, so not much happens because there's not a lot of time to develop that much. Then we have Annihilation, which I actually don't like that much. A lot of people love Annihilation. They think it's really good. But overall, I think I just don't like Marvel space stuff too much. That being said, I love Annihilation Conquest, mostly because of Nova, though. Just Nova having to respond to all of the distress calls and everything is so great for his character. Secret Invasion is an omnibus where I like the main story, the main Secret Invasion story, but I'm not the biggest fan of all the spin-offs. I think they're kind of just average, and just, I don't know, the way these event omnibuses collect all the stories where they put like the main event and then they put just everything else that happened in the middle of the event at the end makes me care less because I already finished the main event. So I don't know, that's probably just a me thing. Then we have Alias by Brian Michael Bendis. This is a Marvel Max piece. It's fantastic. It's really good. It focuses on Jessica Jones, and you know, this was some of the groundwork laid for the Netflix Jessica Jones series, which has a phenomenal season 1. I haven't really seen the rest of the seasons, but I think season 1 of the Jessica Jones series is my favorite Netflix Marvel series. I know Daredevil is amazing, guys, but that Jessica Jones season 1 really captured something special. Then we have what was also like a huge surprise omnibus for me. A friend recommended that I get it, and now it's one of my favorite omnibuses that is not X-Men related in my entire collection. Although Firestar is in it and Marvel Boy is in it, and they're both mutants. But that's The New Warriors. It's a really fantastic book. I'm looking forward to the volume 2. I thought that was supposed to come out a while ago. Maybe it got pushed back. Maybe I missed it. That'd be unfortunate. I got to check up on that. But anyway, it's phenomenal. Equally phenomenal is The Runaways, which is another omnibus I really just kind of took a shot on. I knew Brian K. Vaughan had done work for Saga, and you know, everyone was praising Saga, so I was like, I'll check out his Marvel stuff. And Runaways is fantastic, so that's a good one too. There's a Hulu series. I haven't really watched much of it. I think the first 2 episodes didn't really capture my interest, but the comic is a lot better, I think. Then we have the Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme Omnibus. This is the 90s stuff from, I think, what is the longest running Doctor Strange series to date, I believe. Because, I mean, there's 2 more omnibus of this. I wasn't able to get the second one, and I also wasn't able to get the third one, so who knows if I'll ever add those to my collection in the future. Maybe they'll be reprints. Then we have the Doctor Strange by Jason Aaron omnibus. You know what? Not my favorite either. Maybe I just don't like Jason Aaron's writing, because it just seemed like he was not paying attention. He used a lot of characters, and he used a lot of them incorrectly, I think. Like, just factually incorrectly. Not even like, oh, my opinion of the characterization. Like, they all lose their magical abilities at one point in here, and Magic is there, Ilyana Rasputin, and, like, they need to teleport, and she's like, I can't teleport because my magic's gone, which, if you're an X-Men fan, you know that her teleportation ability is not predicated on her magical abilities. That is her mutation. Anyway, moving on. World War Hulk, same sort of thing as Secret Invasion, where I really, really like the main event, but the other stuff connected to it, I wasn't as interested in. Cool, really cool story though, really fun, kind of like Thunderdome style. Then we have the What If, the original Marvel series, Volume 1. These are always fun. Like, you could just open this up, flip to any issue, read it, and have a good time. I will say a few of the ones in this one in particular are, like, very, very dated. And a few of these things have happened at this point, too, just in the main Marvel continuity. I think that's really funny. Then we have the Ultimates, which is way too edgy for me. It's way too much a product of its time when everything was trying to be as edgy and hardcore as they could, and it just made them look kind of embarrassing, I think. There's some notable moments in there. It has its place in comic book discourse, but I'm personally not a big fan. I do love Thor in it. Thor's the best character, I think. Then we have She-Hulk by Peter David. Really, really fun run. She-Hulk is not a lawyer in this one. She's a more bounty hunter style character, and she's got her little alien companion to help her along with that. And I think that's a really, really fun read too. All the She-Hulk omnibuses are pretty good. Like, you can't go wrong with any of them. Then we have Miss Marvel, which I really enjoyed too. I was thinking of doing an overview of this one when the series came out, but I think this is out of print and hard to get, so I was like, I don't want to brag to you guys and, like, make you want to read this story when you aren't going to be able to pick it up in omnibus format. Although I guess you could still read it in, like, Marvel Unlimited or somewhere else, and you should, because it's really good. And I hope we get a volume 2. I have 2 Hickman X-Men omnibuses. Don't ask me why. Maybe I'll give one away in the future for some milestone. We're coming up on 1,000. So then I have the Venomnibus, which I don't like. I know this one is a pretty well-loved omnibus, but just all the Venom Lethal Protector stuff just doesn't work for me. Like, I don't know what it is about it. It just feels wrong. It feels shallow. Maybe my opinion will change on that in the future, but maybe I need to read more. Then we have the Carnage Omnibus, which is basically just a Carnage anthology book. I like this one a lot better. There are some creative teams that don't do as well a job with the character, but for the most part, everything in here is super fun, super Carnage. Like, you get what you sign up for. Absolutely loved Absolute Carnage. I love the artwork. It's my favorite drawn Spider-Man, I think. I love how Spider-Man's characterized in here, too. Venom's good in here. Carnage is obviously a madman in here. There's a lot of symbiote action. The Maker's in here. It's a really good read. Moving on, we have my Junji Ito collection. So I basically, the only manga that I really read is Junji Ito. I picked up Uzumaki one day, thought it was fantastic. So we've got Deserter, Shiver, Love Sickness, Smashed, which is, a few of these are, well, actually, I think basically all of these are anthologies, except Remeda is not, Censor is not. Censor is really fantastic too. Very different from the rest of Junji Ito's books, but really phenomenal and a really interesting concept. Then we have Fragments of Horror. We have Uzumaki, which is the one you have to read, even if you're not a manga fan. Like, you have to go pick that up. It is such a terrifying, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like you're just afflicted by this book. Like, pick it up, read it. Seriously, it's a really interesting concept, too. Tomie is fine. Gaio, however you say that, that's okay, too. Venus in the Blind Spot's pretty good. The Liminal Zone was interesting. I just picked up Black Paradox yesterday, so I haven't gotten the chance to read it yet. Ed Brubaker writing crime stuff, criminals, it's always really, really good. Cruel Summer, also same thing. That was the first one I picked up in the criminal books. Ice Cream Man Sunday Edition. I did an overview of this one, but this is like the best horror anthology series out there, I think. You should definitely take a look at it. Very unique, very special use of the medium too, which you don't see too often in horror anthologies. It's like they'll be scary, they'll be horrifying, they'll have cool concepts, but they won't do as much with the comic book medium as they could. Ice Cream Man remedies that. Saga, of course. What else is there to say about Saga? Except that it's phenomenal, and I have not finished reading it past this book, so please no one spoil anything. Watchmen, also just a comic book classic. Alan Moore, come on, like everyone knows Watchmen, probably part of everyone's collection. Really good stuff. The Filth by Grant Morrison. I love Grant Morrison, but this didn't do it for me. I didn't even finish it, I think. I got like halfway through, and I was just like, I was not into the story, so I gave up on it. The Doctor Doom, the Book of Doom omnibus is, again, just an anthology omnibus with a bunch of Doctor Doom stories. There's a few notable ones collected in there, though, like the Oath, Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom one that isn't really collected in oversized hardcover anywhere else, so that's an awesome book if you're a Doom fan. I had a lot of fun reading that. Thunderbolts by Busick and Bagley was really amazing, too. Like I said, I love Busick's writing, as I've stated a few times, and the concept of this book is really fun, and it just keeps every issue, like the stakes get higher and higher. It's really, really fun, really interesting, and goes places that you wouldn't imagine it would go, even if you know what the concept is. Then we have Deadpool, the minibus. This is the only one I've ever picked up. It's an anthology series, or it's an anthology book of a bunch of different Deadpool miniseries. Don't like Deadpool that much, honestly. His random type humor doesn't hit what I think is funny, but I know a lot of people like the character, so this is probably good if you like Deadpool. Then we have Alex Ross's Fantastic Four Full Circle book, which was really, really beautiful. It's sort of a very classic style Fantastic Four story. I did a whole video on that one if you want to hear some more thoughts on it, but at least 100% worth it to look at the amazing Alex Ross artwork. He did the interiors. I just read Wakanda, the World of the Black Panther. A lot of good Wakanda-centric miniseries that have been published in there. Pretty awesome stuff, especially, as I'm getting ready to go see Wakanda Forever this November. This one I picked up like 2 days ago, so I still need to read it. But I've heard it's a phenomenal Black Panther run. Moving on, we have the Young Avengers, which was good by Gillen, but I'm reading the first Young Avengers run now, and it's a lot better. I'm going to have a video on that one soon, too. You're not going to see it on the shelf because I'm reading it. Animal Man by Morrison was amazing. They did such a good job writing this book. It's incredible. I really liked it, and I was surprised at, like, how nuanced it was, how layered it was. There was just a lot going on, especially for when it was made. I was like, wow, this like could have been made today, and it's phenomenal. Anyway, then we have, so we're getting into some stuff I have not read yet because like I said, my comic book shop was selling a bunch of omnibuses, and I just picked a bunch up. So we have the Batwoman omnibus, haven't read it, but just looked cool. Doom Patrol, really looking forward to reading it, but haven't gotten the chance to yet. Morrison as well. Then I picked up Harley Quinn and the Gotham Sirens because I got a good deal on it. And then the new Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 1, something else I'm really looking forward to read. Which one should I read next? I don't know. Maybe I'll start with Doom Patrol, then go to the new Teen Titans, then do Batwoman, then do Harley Quinn. I think that's what I'm going to do. The Dazzler Marvel Masterworks. I was like, will we ever get a Dazzler Omnibus? I love Dazzler, but we probably won't. But now I'm like kind of thinking we will eventually, but I picked these up anyway. I think I need to grab the third one too, unless I want to really wait and see if we do get a Dazzler Omnibus. They could do it. They've got the content. Then we have Mouse, which is somehow inexplicably been banned in certain schools and places and whatnot, which is completely ridiculous. It's a fantastic, phenomenal, heart-wrenching, important read. It's a really good book, really powerful. I'd say read that one just for some self-betterment if you'd like. These are not, these next two ones are not comic book related, but I just filled out the bookshelf here as we move away from some comic stuff. Then we've got Super Sex, which is a collection of comic book essays collected by Dr. Ann Peppard. It's Ann? Yeah, Dr. Peppard. Really interesting stuff. I need to finish reading that. I've only read a few of the essays in there, but just really in-depth comic book analysis of sex, sexuality, gender, promiscuity, just a bunch of different stuff and how it's affected comic books throughout time. And then that's pretty much it, guys. That's going to do it for me here today, guys. We took a look at all these books. Thank you so much if you made it to this point in the video, past all my ramblings. I promise I'm usually a bit more collected, a bit more concise with my verbiage, but this video is always the fun one of the year for me, where I get to just ramble and ramble and ramble, and if you want to, you can listen. So, and clearly you did if you made it this far. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not subscribed, I do tons of awesome videos here. I do X-Men videos, I do X-Men analysis, I do an X-Men podcast. I'm a big X-Men fan, but we're also always doing Marvel Omnibus overviews and trying to figure out a variety of different videos that can appeal to a wide comic book base. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.